chemistry definitions and laws. You must be familiar with drugs and drug abuse. A drug is any substance, natural or manufactured, which when used alters the way the body functions. Drug abuse: the use of a drug for a purpose other than what it is meant for, or use of overdose or underdose of prescribed drugs. The chemistry laboratory: a laboratory is a building or special room where chemicals and apparatus are kept and in which practical subjects such as chemistry are studied. Sublimation: a process by which a substance changes from a solid state to gas when heated. The kinetic theory of matter: matter is made up of particles which are in a continuous state of motion. Elements: an element is a pure substance which cannot be split into simpler substances by chemical means. Compounds: a compound is a pure substance made up of two or more elements which are chemically combined. The atom is the smallest particle of an element that can take part in a chemical reaction. Indicators are substances which show different colors when in acids or bases. Rusting is the corrosion of iron due to its reaction with atmospheric oxygen and moisture. Atomic number and mass number: atomic number is the number of protons in the nucleus of an atom. Mass number is the sum of the protons and neutrons in an atom of an element. Isotopes: isotopes are atoms of the same element having the same atomic number but different mass numbers. Valency: the number of electrons an atom loses or gains during a chemical reaction is the valency of that atom. Valency is also referred to as the combining power of an element. Radicals: radicals are groups of atoms with a net charge that exist and react as a unit during chemical reactions. For example, a sulfate ion. So, 4,2 has a valency of 2, a nitrate ion, No. 3 has a valency of 1, an ammonium ion, NH. 4 plus has a valency of 1. The alkali metals. The elements in group 1 of the periodic table are called alkali metals. Ionization energy. Ionization energy is the minimum energy required to remove an electron from the outermost energy level of an atom in the gaseous state. Alkaline earth metals. The elements in group 2 of the periodic table are called alkaline earth metals. A ductile substance. A ductile material is one which can be drawn into a wire. A malleable substance. Materials which can be hammered into sheets are said to be malleable. A brittle substance. A brittle substance is one which is hard and likely to break. Halogens. Halogens are nonmetals in group 7 of the periodic table. Example: fluorine, chlorine, bromine, and iodine. Noble gases. The elements in group 8 of the periodic table are called noble gases. Ionic bond, electrovalent bond. An ionic bond is the electrostatic force of attraction between a metal and a nonmetal. An ionic bond is formed when there is complete transfer of valence electrons from one atom to another, resulting in two ions with opposite charges which mutually attract one another. The resulting compound is known as an ionic compound. Covalent bond. A covalent bond is a bond formed when the combining atoms share a pair, or pairs, Covalent bond. A covalent bond is a bond formed when the combining atoms share a pair, or pairs, of electrons between them, each donating an electron to the shared pair. Covalent bonding occurs when atoms of nonmetals combine. Co-ordinate bond, dative bond. A co-ordinate bond is a type of a covalent bond in which the shared pair of electrons forming the bond is contributed by only one of the atoms forming the bond. Examples of substances which have coordinate bonds include ammonium ion, NH 4 plus, carbon 2 oxide, CO, hydroxonium ion, H 3O plus, ozone, O 3, aluminum chloride dimer, Al 2Cl 6 and nitric, V, acid, HNO 3. Salts. A salt is a substance that is formed when the hydrogen ions in an acid are wholly or partially replaced by a positive ion. Normal salts. A normal salt is a salt that does not contain any replaceable hydrogen atom. Some examples of normal salts are sodium chloride, NaCl, potassium sulfate, K 2SO 4, sodium carbonate, Na 2CO 3, and calcium nitrate, Ca, NO 3. These salts are neutral in aqueous state. Acid salts. Acid salts are salts that contain a replaceable hydrogen atom. Some examples are sodium hydrogen carbonate, NaHCO 3, potassium hydrogen sulfate, KHSO 4, and sodium dihydrogen phosphate, Nat 2PO. They have acidic properties due to the presence of replaceable hydrogen. Basic salts. Basic salts are salts that contain hydroxyl, O, ions. It is the presence of hydroxyl ions in these salts that is responsible for the basic properties. Examples are basic magnesium chloride, Mg, O, Cl, basic lead, 2. Carbonate, Pb, O 2.PbCO 3. Basic zinc chloride, Zn, O, Cl, and basic copper, 2. Carbonate, Cuco 3. Cu, O 2. Double salts. Double salts are salts in which there are two different anions or cations. Examples are hydrated potassium aluminium sulfate, Kal, SO 4. 2.12H 2O, hydrated ammonium iron, 2, sulfate, Fe, NH 4, SO 4.6, H 2O, and trona, Na 2CO 3, NaHCO 3.2H 2O. A deliquescent substance, salt. Deliquescent salts are salts that absorb water from the atmosphere and form solutions. E.g. anhydrous calcium chloride, sodium hydroxide, calcium Deliquescent salts are salts that absorb water from the atmosphere and form solutions. E.g. anhydrous calcium chloride, sodium hydroxide, calcium chloride, iron 2 chloride, potassium hydroxide, and zinc chloride. Deliquescence is the process by which salts absorb water from the atmosphere and form solutions. A hygroscopic salt. Hygroscopic salt are salts that absorb water from the atmosphere but do not form solutions. E.g., anhydrous copper 2, sulfate anhydrous cobalt 2, chloride, potassium nitrate, and common table salt. Hygroscopy is the process by which salts absorb water from the atmosphere but do not form solutions. An efflorescent salt. Efflorescent salt are salts which lose some of their water of crystallization when exposed to the atmosphere. E.g. hydrated sodium carbonate, Na 2CO 3.10H 2O. Efflorescence is the process by which salts lose some of their water of crystallization when exposed to the atmosphere. Conductors. Substances which allow an electric current to pass through them. Non-conductors. Substances which do not allow an electric current to pass through them. Electrolysis. Electrolysis is the process of decomposing an electrolyte by passing an electric current through it. An electrolyte is a substance which, when melted or dissolved in water, conducts an electric current and gets decomposed by the current. A binary electrolyte is one which contains only one type of cation and one type of anion. An allotrope. An allotrope is an element which exists in more than one form, in the same physical state. Allotropy. Allotropy is the existence of an element in more than one form, in the same physical state. Boyle's law. Boyle's law states that the volume of a given mass of a gas is inversely proportional to its pressure at constant temperature. Charles's law. Charles's law states that the volume of a given mass of a gas is directly proportional to its absolute temperature, its pressure being kept constant. Diffusion and the Graham's law. Diffusion is the process by which particles spread out from a region of high concentration to regions of low concentration. Graham's law of diffusion. Graham's law states that the rate of diffusion of a gas is inversely proportional to the square root of its density under the same conditions of temperature and pressure. Or Graham's law states that, under the same conditions of temperature and pressure, the rate of diffusion of a gas is inversely proportional to the square root of its density. Or Graham's law states that, provided temperature and pressure are constant, the rate of diffusion of a gas is inversely proportional to the square root of its density. Molar solutions. A molar solution is a solution that contains 1 mole of a solute in 1000 cm3, 1 liter, of the solution. Molarity of a solution. The molarity of a solution is the number of moles of the solute per liter of solution, moles per 1000 cubic centimeters. This is normally expressed as mole dm3. Endpoint. The point at which the reaction is complete. Atomicity. Atomicity is the number of atoms in one molecule of an element. Avogadro's law states that equal volumes of gases will contain equal number of molecules. Gay-Lussac's law: when gases react, they do so in volumes that bear a simple ratio to one another and to the volumes of the product if gaseous, temperature and pressure remaining constant. Isomerism in alkanes is a situation whereby two or more compounds have similar molecular formula but different structural formula. Such compounds are called isomers. Isomers are compounds that have the same molecular formula but different structural formula. A dehydrating agent is a substance which is capable of removing chemically combined water or the elements of water from a compound. Dehydration. The process of removing water or its elements from a compound. Scrubbing the sulfur, 4, oxide, is the process of passing the exhaust gases through chimneys lined with calcium hydroxide to reduces the amount of sulfur, 4, oxide released to the atmosphere. Acids. An acid is a substance that dissociates in water to give hydrogen ions as the only positively charged ions. A strong acid is one that dissociates completely and yields many hydrogen ions in aqueous solution. A weak acid dissociates partially and yields few hydrogen ions in aqueous solution. Bases. A base is a substance that dissociates in water to produce hydroxide, O, as the only negatively charged ions. Strength of bases. A strong base is one that ionizes completely in water to produce hydroxide ions. Weak bases partially ionizes to form hydroxide ions. Amphoteric oxides and hydroxides. The metal oxides or hydroxides which react both as bases and acids are said to be amphoteric solubility of solute. The solubility of a solute in a solvent is the maximum mass of solute required to saturate 100 grams of the solvent at a particular temperature. Fractional crystallization. This is the separation of different salts by making use of the differences in their solubility in the same solvent. Enthalpy of solution. The enthalpy change that occurs when a substance is dissolved in a solvent to give an infinitely dilute solution. But the molar heat of solution is the enthalpy change that occurs 1 mole of a substance is dissolved in a solvent to give a dilute solution. Enthalpy of combustion. Enthalpy of combustion is the enthalpy change that occurs when a substance burns completely in oxygen. But molar heat of combustion is the enthalpy change that occurs when 1 mole of a substance is completely burned in oxygen. Enthalpy of displacement. The enthalpy of displacement is the enthalpy change that occurs when a substance is displaced from a solution of its ions. But the molar heat of displacement is the enthalpy change that occurs when 1 mole of a substance is displaced from a solution of its ions. Enthalpy of neutralization. The enthalpy of neutralization is the enthalpy change that occurs when an acid and a base react to form water and a salt. The molar heat of neutralization is the enthalpy change that occurs when an acid and a base react to produce 1 mole of water. Hess's law. Hess's law of constant heat summation states that the energy changes in converting reactants to products is the same regardless of the route by which the chemical change occurs. Hydration energy is defined as the energy change that occurs when 1 mole of gaseous ions become hydrated. Le Chatelier's principle. When a change in conditions is applied to a system in equilibrium, the system moves so as to oppose that change. Radioactivity is the process where an unstable nuclide breaks up to yield another nuclide of different composition with emission of particles and energy. The half-life is the time taken for a given mass or number of nuclides to decay to half its original mass.